Indoor exposure is threatening our circadian biology. But what does that really mean?
The advancements in technology where we can create our environment is what's really hurt us, because now we went from being outside to being inside, and we're temperature controlling everything, and we have all this artificial light, and that's just life now, and we think that's normal, and then we don't realize that's why we're so sick.
We've normalized dystopia. The propaganda of Big Pharma, going back to that story again, you and your family are conditioned to get a prescription for every ill. Like when you're a new mom and your baby gets sick, you run to the pediatrician to get.
He's sick, I haven't run.
We are evolved to the electromagnetic environment that nature provides. That electromagnetic environment is called the sun. The Schumann resonance is the heartbeat of your brain. It's made in the thalamus of your brain. Every mammal on this planet has the exact same resonance pattern in its brain that the Earth has. And it freaks people out when they realize, and this works just like a tuning fork, you are designed to be in tune that much with the planet.
There are certain inputs that our bodies are just expecting to receive because, evolutionarily or ancestrally speaking, those were the inputs that we did receive and that our bodies were shaped under. So that includes the Schumann resonance, which is this heartbeat of the Earth. This includes the Earth's magnetic field. This includes full spectrum sunlight at different times of day, which the spectrum of sunlight varies depending on the time of day. Funnily enough, in the 70s, Becker got canceled after blowing the whistle on 60 Minutes for exposing the harms of non-native EMFs on human biology, because there was this antenna going up somewhere in the Midwest. It ended up in Michigan, I think, but it was called the Sanguine antenna. And it used ELF frequencies, extreme low frequency waves. And he found that was very problematic because the ELFs mimic the natural ELF frequencies that we receive, namely the Schumann resonance, which is like this heartbeat of the Earth that actually helps to sync up the body's rhythms to the natural environment. And so he found that if you provide interfering wavelengths within this ELF space, that you basically can ruin the rhythms that are present, that are getting naturally synced up to the environment, and you can get some serious health issues, circadian issues, metabolic health issues, etc. And so he ended up blowing the whistle on 60 Minutes. And within a few days, all of his funding had been pulled, and he lost his livelihood, his lab, and ended up writing books and kind of trying to make some waves and bring awareness to the space.
We are discovering indoor living is all-inclusive. It comes with artificial light, appliances, powered by a high-voltage AC grid. Hey, there's nothing natural about it. These conditions actually oppose our very own circadian biology. Doesn't really mix well with the mitochondrial biogenetic pathways we're going to discuss here in this video.
If you look at the research on non-native EMFs, for example, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc., these frequencies directly interface with the mitochondria, and they kind of create, you can kind of think of it as like decoherence, or creating kind of some chaos or lack of an ability to properly sense the environment, because these frequencies are not natural, so to speak. They're a very new phenomena within our environments emerging over the past 100 years. Really with the rollout of the AC power grid, and then of course all of our technology that we plug into walls, and then light bulbs, and then all of the tech that we all enjoy today that we're talking on right now. But these frequencies, if you could see them, they are also forms of light that are interacting with our bodies. And the research going back to even the 50s, 60s, 70s, the work of Robert O. Becker and Alan Fry, who were both like superstars within the non-native EMF research space back in the 50s and 60s, we've known for a very long time that these frequencies cause huge issues.
Remember, do we live in an environment where the 7.83 hertz resonance pattern is interfered with? Yeah, we do.
We are focused on discovery because it's important to understand the problem to be able to manage it down the road. Here's a great discussion I found on the Health Squad. It's a broadcast you'll find on YouTube.
Stop hearing. The tuning fork vibrates. If you have another tuning fork and hit it, and it's of the same resonance, it'll start moving in your hand without you ever hitting it. That's exactly how the Schumann resonance works. So I want you to think about the distance between this tuning fork and this one. If you put an iPhone in between there, or say you put those stupid little
AirPods.
in your ear, do you think I'm excited about that? No, I'm not. And remember, these signals are bouncing all around. And if you don't believe me that it can affect things in the air, this is the reason why they tell you to turn your phone off on takeoff and landing, because it can affect the avionics. Well, it can affect the avionics there. You don't think it's going to affect your thalamus where the alpha waves made? You don't think it's going to affect the oscillation rate of your intermitochondrial membrane so that you can't burn fat? The answer is it does. The problem is you don't realize. And Einstein famously said, I don't believe that God rules the dice. And Bohr said back to him, stop telling God what to do. You can put everybody in this group. They are a cartel. It's the industrial healthcare complex. And they take full advantage on you not being able to realize that your two frontal lobes break the laws of gravity, of the photoelectric effect, of E equals MC squared. They are banking on you not doing that homework. Why? Because 50 to 70% of their drugs that they sell you work via the circadian mechanisms that are broken. In other words,
So they need that to be broken.
right. They need it to be broken because when they give you the drug, they need a cause and effect. So they know they can move the ball a little bit, but will they ever solve the problem? No. If you're running a business, would you want to solve the problem? No. You want to create a customer forever.
Yeah.
It's called planned obsolescence.
Everyone takes a Hippocratic oath. This is believing that that doctor they're seeing has taken that oath and they are going to do what's best in your best interest.
How about this? Let's make it something your audience will know better. Most people in the United States have gotten married. 55% of them get divorced. How would that promise work? Look, bottom line, we're human. Some of us took the oath and it really meant something to us. Most centralized docs don't. And even the ones that will listen to this and say, no, I really do, then tell me about your actions. See, it goes with what I said to you before. The data doesn't lie. We spend huge amounts of money and we get no return on equity. In neurosurgery, there's a time and place for surgery. What I found through this whole process is the time and place for surgery was a lot less than I was led to believe through my residency. In other words, some of the conditions that most neurosurgeons today will operate on, I no longer will until I do certain things before. The only time I operate if the patient follows the decentralized path. Cancer has become the growth driver in centralized medicine. People will continue to get cancer because it is the single biggest profit driver for healthcare. There is no incentive for centralized doctors to fix it. In fact, centralized oncologists are incentivized not to fix it. That's actually what Robert O. Becker found in his work. That's actually what happens. Now, here's the interesting part. A dedifferentiated cell doesn't cause a problem if the immune system, the T and B cells, actually operate. Why? Because it controls that cell from being able to do the things that that cancers can do, specifically metastasize or grow uncontrollably. But if the immune system is not operational at the time that you get dedifferentiation, then guess what happens? Then you get your mom's problem. Or you get your problem in the pancreas. Now, when you get a diagnosis like this, the first thing that happens, you get scared.
Yep.
What I want people to know, you have to subtract the superfluous. That means you cannot be afraid.
Yeah.
You have to know that when you get a diagnosis of cancer, you have been injured, just like if you cut your finger, Maria, in your kitchen. That's how you need to think about it. And what your body is saying to you, there is something in your environment that is causing my cells to dedifferentiate.
What could that be?
It's loss of melanin. It's hypoxia. That's how
Lack
mammals.
of vitamin D.
Yeah. Well,
Lack of light.
when you have a lack of melanin, you have no sunlight. Like, people don't realize the gene in humans called POMC It stands for pro-opiomelanocortin. It breaks them into 6 parts, but one of the parts is called alpha MSH. This is the shocker. Do you know that that whole gene, you know what turns it on and turns it off? BioLite. Because how do cells regenerate? We use sunlight, we use water, we use magnetism to do it. The guy that's proven this beyond a shadow of a doubt is Robert O. Becker. All you have to do is buy his books, read his papers. The papers are not hard to read because he talks about them in his books. And he basically showed how all mammals regenerate. It's not just, I look at it like this: if you don't fix the environment that you got sick in, you're not going to get better. That is the real take home. And that idea comes from like the work of Doug Wallace. Mitochondrial DNA really is how you make the epigenetic program. It's how you make the light show inside. That light show is then what changes things in the nucleus. That's where the nuclear DNA comes in, messenger RNA and tRNA. But the centralized paradigm has it all backwards. They think that it's, genetic mutations that control it. In the modern world, now that we have huge amounts of light pollution, the place on the planet that has the largest amount of type 1 diabetics, and I'm talking about new ones, is Finland.
I read that
Right, and
in your book.
Yeah, most people are a little bit surprised when they hear it and realize Finland is one of those long, skinny countries in Scandinavia. The higher you go up, the more type 1 diabetics you get. Why? Because the sun is not as powerful. They also don't have really great magnetic flux in their country like, Sweden and Norway do, and then obviously over to Iceland, because that helps offset, the risk when you understand the disease from a mitochondrial perspective. If you look at the data, especially for type 1s, the further you move away from the equator, the higher the incidence of type 1 diabetics. Same thing is true with type 2, but it's not as prominent as for type 1. So when you think about that, that's classically known in centralized medicine, for MS. And not everything that's printed in the textbooks is accurate because, let's face it, it's the science that I've been teaching people for 15 to 20 years. Most people don't even know that it got a Nobel Prize in 2016. And that science has not reached the medical textbooks yet. And then there's the other big problem with centralized science, that big pharma doesn't really want a lot of the solutions in the textbooks or the medical school curriculum, because if you began to listen to the doctor in your head, then you would cease being a customer.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to understand how centralized medicine was stolen by Rockefeller and the Flexner Report. Just remember, the curriculum for medical school was uploaded like a USB. The sad part is the doctors that go to like UCLA and USC,
They don't even realize.
no, and I didn't realize it either, because the problem is no one tells you when you walk into medical school kind of how the whole system was really built. We spend more money than any country in the world, and we get the worst return on equity. They took doctors who used to be independent contractors and turned them into employees. So now healthcare decision making by proxy is being done by
Board, right?
medical staff bylaws, medical staffs, professional guilds.
From an orbital altitude, the game is finished because the balance has been violated way too long, which has already started an anti-movement to manifest. It's called decentralized medicine. Our current centralized Medicare institutions around the world have crossed the line when they've ignored the natural given rights of humanity. For millenniums, inform and consent is the rule. That's what got all those OSS German officers in trouble after World War II. The same violation is happening today. This violation is out of control and also attracting attention. The bottom line, the public is less informed now than ever before. Inform and consent was the basis of labeling our food. Clever marketing, misguided words. It's fair to say the public is being abused, especially here in America.
And what happened is regulatory capture of the system of medicine. It became even more centralized and helped out the profiteers. That's the healthcare administrators, the hospitals, and big pharma. They are all playing a role here. And the thing is, the doctor now is on the front line between the patient. There's no informed consent. And the doctor really is impotent to do the things they need to do, because guess what? If you step out of line now and treat, say, a type 1 diabetic by using cold thermogenesis and say circadian biology, you may wind up in front of a medical staff bylaw meeting. You may get a suspension. Your professional guild may come after you because they think you're a wackadoodle. Then it gets even worse. Then the medical boards. Here's the interesting thing about medicine that people have forgotten. All the way back to its genesis, it's an art and a science. And we have forgotten the art of medicine. We have forgotten that the laws of nature are axiomatically true. The laws of centralized medicine aren't.